The number one thing I hear time and time again when I suggest to people the power of planning out your entire homeschool year is that they don't know how to make adjustments when they've planned everything out. So I'm tackling that topic today. I'm Dollie Freeman, and this is the Charlotte Mason Show. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 steps to adjusting homeschooling plans. But before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit of story about how when I went from planning in all different types of ways, from planning my entire summer out for our entire year to going week by week, day by day, month by month, and term by term, there was something that I kept realizing is that our son was struggling to learn how to read. And here I already had the experience of teaching 20 children how to read as a kindergarten teacher. In addition to that, I taught our daughter how to read very easily. And so here, when I came to this child who struggled to read later, much later in his teen years, did we find out he was dyslexic. But at the time, I knew none of that. And when I was struggling with it, I was making a whole lot of changes during his year because I began to blame the curriculum. I started to question myself. I started to question how we were doing things. I was making a lot of adjustments, and all of those adjustments were actually things that hindered what it was that I was trying to do as a homeschooling mom. So, I want to give you what actually changed for me when I took a pause back and said, how am I going to actually make a framework, so to speak, of how I'll adjust our homeschool plans for the year so that it still keeps me on this progress of moving towards our goal for the year while still allowing myself the freedom that the right to homeschool affords us of being able to take things as they come and being able to flow better for our home without being so tangent in, I got to get this done, got to hurry up and get this in. So, what I want to recognize is to share with you about what I recognize is detours. When we plan a trip, we have detours, and those detours keep us from injuries or damage to our vehicles, right? Because it's not a very good road for us to be on when there's construction underway. And I want you to start thinking about your homeschooling adjustments as kind of like construction. And we do not want our homeschooling days to be full of too much construction, do we? So we want to make sure those detours are very little and intentional at key aspects. So let me equip you with the steps that I have used in our homeschooling years, for 20 plus years, and how I had to get away from making too many adjustments and then showing myself exactly when's the right time to make adjustments and how I should go about doing them. All right. So, number one, I told myself that if I did enough diligent work in the beginning of the school year, then I shouldn't be making too many adjustments. And the truth is that if I understand my child's weaknesses, their strength, their confidence baseline, and I pick the curriculum based on the wholesome influences I desire our children to have, I shouldn't be making too many adjustments. Right. And so knowing that, I said to myself, okay, how many adjustments am I going to allow? And this is the key, because if we tell ourselves we have unlimited amount of adjustments to make, then human nature is going to take over. And we're going to make all the adjustments that keeps us feeling comfortable. And comfortable is not where progress is in. We need to become intentional and consistent, not comfortable. Okay. So you need to give yourself this guideline of how many changes or adjustments are you going to allow to your overall plan. Now, this doesn't speak about, having one day where you didn't quite get it done or one week where you're off. This is totally taking out what you've planned and putting something else in. And we allowed one change per term. That's one over all the subjects. Because what I found is if I'm changing out too many things, it's confusing our children and it's holding them back just because of the change itself. Now, in saying that, I want to also say that those adjustments of saying, we didn't get quite all done this week versus getting everything in this week. That's the beauty of homeschooling, is when you create a grade notebook like the way that I teach you, you're going to be able to say based on your subjects. So if you can't get to a subject one week, you move that lesson to the next week. And then you realize by the end of the year how many weeks you're behind, or in a lot of our cases, how many weeks we worked ahead, because our children get so motivated towards the end of the year that they really want to put more time in so that they can get the extra hours of summer and getting into those life skills that we often put in a focus during that time. All right, so the second step is introduce adjustment ideas. This is the idea prior to the change to spark interest. So before you even change, before you make any adjustments, before you switch out one curriculum for a next or one book for the next, just talk to your child about the idea and make sure that that sparks an interest enough worth the effort of making the adjustment. Number one. Okay, this is intentional, not life adjustments, because life happens, right? This is intentional changing of your plans. So before you even do it, make sure that the change that you're going to make, in fact, inspires your child's interest. Then, number three, as you're introducing this new idea, stir up the interest by producing thoughts around one aspect. So when you say, Johnny, I'm thinking about changing your reading book because you keep complaining about it, or your narrations aren't very good, or you don't seem very interested about the conversations we could have around it. So I was thinking that if I took that book out and offered this book instead, I think this would be really good because, and then you start listing the things that would spark his interest. Okay. You like automobiles, or you like tractor trailers, as it is the case in our home. You like traveling, you like whatever it is that inspired you to consider that idea for your child's curriculum. You start sharing that with your child and see if you can't spark the interest. Because just making adjustments, switching one curriculum for the next without any way engaging the child's mind through interest is going to result in the exact same thing. Then you're going to be caught in that cycle I was caught in the first couple of years of homeschooling, switching too many things for the wrong reasons and with the wrong way. So again, these are the steps. Allow one change per term, not per subject, per term, and then introduce the adjustment idea prior to making changes to ensure your child is excited about a change. And then number three, introduce the change idea to your child and get them excited about one aspect of why you are selecting this adjustment and why you are putting the time, effort, and energy in making those changes. Now, I'm going to reiterate these steps to adjusting homeschooling plans doesn't account for the life happening. When you create yourself a grade notebook, which let me show you how you can plan with attentions with this grade notebook. You can get it at a sale right now by going to gradenotebooks.com and entering in progress, PROGRESS, before August 31st, and you can get a $10 discount on each and every grade notebook that you purchase. Now, within this grade notebook, I have it where you can adjust for life easily because your syllabus for each subject aligns by the week. So you don't have to make adjustments because of life. I'm speaking of adjustments based on your curriculum choices and what it was that you planned for your children. If for any reason they're just not loving the ideas. Now, there are some subjects like math and reading. If your children are still in the skill of mastering the mechanics of reading, do not do what I did and switch too many curriculums within a year. When you are changing and changing and changing, your child is not going to help but feel like they're not capable of learning. And then they're going to be automatically behind because you're switching too often. It's better to just take a step back, be more assistant in your child when they're struggling, and help them actually implement the lesson and help get some progress in the way through confidence, building their confidence and getting them excited about these changes sticking to something and getting them diligent in the process. But when there comes a time when you have planned a book and it just is not inspiring your child, you cannot get the narrations out of them, you just cannot get them excited. That's when you follow these steps. One adjustment or change per term, not per subject. And then you introduce the idea that you're entertaining the thought of changing because, and give them the reasons. And then number 3, and here's what I'm thinking about putting in place that assignment to see if they're interested. And you make sure you explain to them why you're choosing this and why you think they will like it. And if they say they don't like it, it's on you to spark that interest, to stir up the interest with them. So you have to know a little bit about it and how it relates to your children to do so. Okay, so if you want to make sure you're planning with attention, you want to make sure you grab the grade notebooks before they're out of stock and before the sale is gone. So you want to go to gradesnotebook.com and then put in progress, PROGRESS, at the checkout. And that is the coupon code that's good through August 31st or while supplies last. Now, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. I'll be here for just a couple more minutes. And while you're doing that, let me encourage you that by planning with attentions, you're really taking your children's education seriously in hand. You're really taking that responsibility of their education, and you're removing a lot of the redundant decisions you'll be making throughout the year by making them with intentions at the beginning of the year. Those intentional decisions with curriculum and plans are your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. There we go. It's your SOP of how not only that subject should look, but the lessons for each subject. And that is automatically how you build the habits of motivation, responsibility, accountability, self-management, and self-direction. These are those 5 key habits necessary for a child to take ownership of their education and able to have those necessary work ethics for them when they move into adulthood. So that's the power of a grade notebook when you implement it for the entire year. And, if you're still just Dollie, I just can't wrap my head around doing the full year. Start with one term at a time. I'm going to just tell you, though, there's power in 3 terms. But if you just can't quite get there, start with one term at a time, and that be your first goal. And don't say, oh, I'll just do a couple weeks or I'll do my first week. Plan at least a term at a time, but aim for the entire year. I hope that helps you guys. I will see you next week. And I'm continuing with this planning theme, so I hope you keep showing up. And if you have any questions in between about the grade notebook, you can reach out to me on my store or in my emails by info@charlottemasonmastery.com. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.